Happy Tuesday, everyone. It's time for my daddy's podcast.
Welcome to the Lessons for Success podcast. I'm your host, Adam Wardlaw, middle school science teacher and high school football coach in South Carolina, USA. Thank you for tuning into the podcast heard by nearly 3,000 people across 17 countries, as well as almost every state here in America. These episodes are intended to be short and beneficial lessons to help you get more out of your life. You can keep up with the show on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and even TikTok by searching at L4S Show. And remember, that's the number 4. If you're listening on an iPhone, go ahead and give the show a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts to help keep our growing community going. Now let's start the show. While many teachers and students across the globe are switching to e-learning because of the school closures, this format for school will only become more and more common in the decades to come. In this episode, I'm going to be sharing 3 tips to help you excel at e-learning. Welcome back, everybody, to the Lessons for Success show. It's been all over the news and social media these last few weeks, schools switching to virtual platforms to facilitate both social distancing and the educational process. While for many this may be a headache, because of the swift change almost 3 quarters through a school year, this time can actually be used to develop skills in relation to this form of learning. If I was a betting man, I would guess that school in the traditional sense will become more and more obsolete in the next few decades. More students will opt for the flexibility and personalization of online school. Here are 3 tips that will help you do better in the e-learning setting, both now and down the road. Tip number 1, build a schedule for your courses. Online school is great because it's way more flexible than the traditional school day. You can pick and choose when you want to work on your studies. One thing that stumps many students is their lack of time management. There's only one way to get better at this, and that's to practice. Look at your schedule. Which courses will take you longer to work on? We all know there are some classes that come easier to you than others, so plan accordingly. This is going to take some reflection on your part. Does math come easy to you? Well, then perhaps you need to shave off some time devoted to that subject and add it to your block of time devoted to a more challenging course for you. If you're like me, it would be reading and writing. When you're planning your schedule, ask yourself how many days a week do you want to be working on your schoolwork. The more days you provide, the lower each session can be, and it'll equal out to the right amount of time. If you only want to work on school for a few days a week, then be prepared to spend more time on those days. Tip number 2, eliminate distractions. I know it's 2020 and we're surrounded by TVs, cell phones, gaming consoles, siblings, pets, and a million other things that can distract us. But if you're serious about doing your best in your online classes, then you're going to have to eliminate these distractions during the time you've allotted for your schoolwork. This could mean finding an isolated part of your home or another location entirely, such as a public library. Perhaps playing some classical music or study beats through your headphones can help you focus on your work at hand. Put your phone on Do Not Disturb mode and communicate with your family that you're going to be doing schoolwork. Involve them in the planning process so they can be aware of when you are and are not available. One of the perks of virtual school is that it's mostly self-paced, so the more efficient you can be with your time, the more you can advance. And last but not least, the most important factor for excelling in e-learning is to keep yourself accountable. We've talked about being honest with yourself before on the podcast, and it cannot be stressed enough. It's easy to not hold yourself accountable and to just do what you want willy-nilly. But when it comes to virtual school, the responsibility of your success is up to you. E-learning doesn't have a person who can physically redirect you or sit you down and have tough conversations with you when you're not performing up to par. You've got to be prepared to wrestle with the struggle in your head of doing what you need to do and not what you want to do. If you're truly serious about doing well in your online classes, then you need to understand that your fate rests on your shoulders. If you don't trust yourself at the beginning, that's okay. Get a trusted individual to keep tabs on you the first several weeks of your courses. Before long, you'll probably have it down pat. So there you have it, guys. 3 tips that can help you get the most out of your e-learning experience. I personally prefer to be in a physical classroom, but I can admit that this method of education has some great perks. If you're out there listening, what are some questions you have about e-learning? If you're an online student, what are some tips that you can share with the listeners? Drop your thoughts in the comments below or reach out to the show on social media and let me know. That's it for this episode. Thanks for listening, everybody. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow on a brand new episode of the Lessons for Success podcast.
Time for a quick commercial.
That's right, Ellie. This episode is brought to you by Anchor. Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. Anchor gives you everything you need in one place for free, which you can use right from your phone or computer. Creation tools allow you to record and edit your podcast so it sounds great. And they'll even distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard everywhere. Places like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many more. You can easily make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. To get started, download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm today. Well, folks, that's it for another edition of the Lessons for Success podcast. Thank you for listening. Remember that you can keep up with the show wherever podcasts are found, as well as the newly updated Lessons for Success YouTube channel. Be sure to follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok to keep up with more content from the show. If you haven't already done so, give the show a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. That's all the time I have for today. Be sure to tune in for the next episode of the Lessons for Success show.